Hello and welcome to Sam's Fans Live. I'm gonna change here the message since we are now live. We are welcoming people as they come in. So I'm gonna hide this one. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're watching, let us know in the comments. Say hi so we can see who's watching. We are on both Facebook and YouTube Live, so we're very happy that you can join us if you're watching. Even if you are not watching the live stream, but you're watching later, then welcome. And today I'm very excited for what we have prepared. We're gonna continue with this series, The Power of Stories. This is I believe, the sixth episode of this series, and it's been really an honor and so much fun for me to do this series. So this has been interviews in which I have been chatting with therapists, so mainly music and art therapists from the partner institutions that Sam's Fan supports. And we've been talking about the stories that they have to share, both stories that have influenced them, but also stories from their practice in hospitals, in the hospitals that we support. So we also had an art therapist that works at a camp, so the camp for courageous kids, and that was a lot of fun, slightly different as well. And today we're also bringing you a slightly different um, episode. So today, joining me today will be Graham Spangler, the camp operations coordinator at Flying Horse Farms. So Graham started at Flying Horse Farms in 2015 as a cabin counselor and have worked each summer since in a variety of roles, including collaborating with Sam's Fans to revamp the camp's Spotlight program area into a music therapy experience for campers in 2017. So that's the connection with Sam's Fans. And outside of camp, you can catch them slowly learning skateboard tricks, having distance park picnics with friends, playing music, cooking delicious food, and dreaming of a better world without exploitation or domination, one in which every person is Graham into the show. Hey, Graham. Hi.
Hey, thanks for reading that bio. That was fun to hear.
Yeah, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. I'm really excited to chat with you and to spend this time just listening to some stories.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. It's been very cool to watch a lot of the interviews that you've done so far in this series. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yes, yeah. And as with the last two episodes that we did, we started with the story. So we said, like, let's start with the meat of it, with the really fun and engaging part. And today is even a little bit different, right? Because we're gonna start not just with the stories, but with a song that you're gonna share with us, right?
Totally.
And so I'm gonna come off the show here. And do you want to introduce the song before singing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. I'm gonna sing the camp song. This is we sing this at every opening campfire at Flying Horse Farms and at every closing campfire. And it really came out of that partnership that you mentioned in 2017 when Sam's Fans first supported camp and made our Spotlight program area, which has historically been all sorts of performance art, dance, and improv games and music. We really sort of focused it on being this new music therapy experience where campers learned some ukulele, got to make shaker eggs and feel rhythm and percussion and practice those skills, do some goofy writing experiences that I'll talk more about later. And part of that was working with a music therapist from Nationwide Children's Hospital who wrote this song, gave us the first draft of it and a bunch of awesome teaching tools that we used all summer long to bring the song to our campers. So I got to come in at the start of that summer and sort of tweak some of the words and really try to imbue the song with some of the essences of camp. So if you've been to Flying Horse Farms before, you'll see some things that are familiar. And if you haven't come to camp yet, I just really hope that this song always, wherever, if it's on a computer, if you're hearing it somewhere else, It just welcomes you into the camp experience and gives you a little bit of a sense of what that is like.
Beautiful, thank you. And can we do a quick sound check? So I think it might be a bit too loud, so I think you might have to step back a
Great
little
call.
bit from that.
I'm always too loud. Is this a little bit better if I'm talking like this?
Can you play? Maybe a bit more, so because it clips a little bit.
Absolutely. I'll try to just be.
Even just a little bit.
I'm glad we're doing this now, though.
Yeah. Yeah, that's better. And don't feel like you need to play loud. I think if you play just soft, it's really nice. And just quick saying hi to Patty, who always watches. She's Nikki's mom. So hi, Patty. And whoever else is watching, we are really glad you're with us. All right, so I'll let you take it away. I'll get off, and it's your time to shine.
Sounds great. Thanks, Samuel. Cool. So at camp, traditionally, this is a catch-along song. If you're watching and you know the words, great. Please sing at home. And we'll go through it now, and then I think we'll just talk more about some of the stories behind all of the words. Welcome home. Welcome to the magic. Come be your wacky self. No one here's a stranger. Get ready to laugh harder than you'd ever thought you'd laugh. Slash so much higher than you'd ever thought you'd slash. S'more so much more than you'd ever thought you'd s'more. You were great before and now you're even more. And all together we know how strong we are. We know we can fly even if we don't have wings. Gather around the campfire and howl at the moon. Ow! Hard to howl quietly. You can leave camp, but camp never leaves you. Here you are home at Flying Horse Farms. That's it. Thanks for listening.
Oops. He's coming back to the show. There it is. Hey, yeah. Wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. It's the first time I listen to it. I hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for letting me play it. That was awesome. Carly
Reese is.
Wow. Hey, Carly. Carly and I went to high school together. That's so exciting that you are here. How fun. I'm glad you're tuning in.
And also Lisa listens to a lot of the live streams. So hello, Lisa, and welcome. Great. So yeah, let's we're gonna talk a little bit about the song and some stories that you have to share with us, right? And I think that you'll go line by line, which I think is a very cool idea. And I won't take credit for it. You suggested it, and let's just dive into it. What's the first line?
Yeah, so it really just starts with welcome home. We have these core values at camp that are really what ground us in the mission of bringing therapeutic healing experiences to kids with serious illnesses who come to camp. And they come from all over Ohio, from all of the surrounding areas and states, and really, of course, from all walks of life and all different medical diagnoses and experiences there. So yeah, it's super special that camp is a place that can become home for so many people. And we so often say that no matter where you're coming from, if you're coming to camp or if you're leaving, camp is the one place where either way you're going home, which I think is just really true. It's a really special part of that. And yeah, we'll talk more about that later in the song. But I think that's true for our campers. I think that is so often true for our volunteers and our staff as well. As everyone's driving in through the front gate of camp and coming down past our wetlands to the big red barn, which is where everyone gets checked in. And then you walk through the hole in the wall into camp and you just kind of see this space open up in front of you. You head to your cabins to meet new friends and hang out with folks that you've known before. Whatever hardships you're experiencing back home, whatever stress or pain or anxiety, we always encourage people to just leave that in the parking lot. And as you walk through what we call the hole in the wall, sort of a tunnel on the path into camp, all of that stays in the parking lot, stays behind you, and you're really welcomed home into the experience of being at Flying Horse Farms.
Great. And have you ever had, I don't know, what came to my mind was Harry Potter, and how when he's at the end of the first movie, he's going back to his uncle's, and then he's like, I'm leaving home, I'm not going home, or something like that. Have you ever had an experience of somebody like just either telling you or expressing, or just having that moment of like, oh yeah, this really feels like home?
Yeah, absolutely. Many times, honestly, and it's really special to get to experience that firsthand. But one that immediately came to mind was over the course of this past summer, we did a lot of virtual programming. So Zoom calls with campers, sort of cabin chats where they could interact with staff and other campers face to face. And those were only like 3 calls for a week for each group of campers. So they would just meet 3 times, and that was sort of the experience they had. But I so clearly remember one camper getting to the end of that week, and just at the beginning of the call, as we were doing our round of introductions, this camper came off mute and was just like, hey, everyone, I know it's been kind of weird, like talking through a screen, but I just want to say that I really feel like y'all are my family, and I'm just very glad to have been able to meet everybody and hopefully see you at camp in the future. So I think that, yeah, that just feels like it exemplifies the nature of camp, creating this sort of family and this sense of being home and being safe and being accepted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very nice. So what will be the next line of the song?
Yeah, totally. So welcome to the magic is the second line of the song. And I think I've already talked about this a little bit, but we often describe camp as being a magical, transformative, fun experience. And I feel like the first time I heard that, I was like, that feels like maybe an exaggeration, like magic, transformation, I don't really know. But in being at camp now for years, and having seen so many campers experience camp, I really do think that magic is part of what happens there. And it can come in a lot of different ways. We have a really cool high ropes course with a lift. And so campers who use a wheelchair or have whatever going on with mobility can be literally like their team, their cabin pulls a tow rope and lifts them into the air. And it's just this really cool, magical experience. And yeah, we also have had a number of experiences. I remember my first summer at camp being in a cabin during Heart Week, where campers all have different cardiology diagnoses. And one camper shared about getting to go to the pool and just like be in the pool, like, you know, normal, but recognizing that all of the other people who were swimming in the pool had a similar scar on their chests, just like this camper did. And how just like going to the pool back home is just not as fun because you have a scar, and that's like a visible thing that can sort of create some stigma or make you feel a different kind of way. So I think that's part of the transformation that comes from getting to be at camp too.
Right. Yeah. And it's a very unique experience. So I grew up in Mexico, and I think that in Mexico we don't have as much that camp culture in the US. But so correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that in the US it's most kids, if not every kid, goes at camp at some point, right? Growing up.
It's pretty common. I know for myself, I went to only like a couple like day camp style camps, but still had a similar experience as a kid. And there certainly are kids who don't. I'm sure that is the case, but it is it's pretty common. Yes.
Yeah. And so I can imagine, or maybe you can tell us a little bit more how it is for kids with serious illnesses who maybe don't have the opportunity to go to a traditional camp. And then that's where what you're mentioning, you're having this opportunity to go and have also their particular condition taken into account, whether that's in the high ropes course, with the lifting and so on. I think that part of the magic comes from that, right? From being seen and being able to participate in an opportunity that maybe they wouldn't be able to otherwise, right?
Yeah, well said. One of my favorite parts of seasonal staff training every year is when we have a panel of camper parents and family members, caregivers who come in to sort of share about what camp has meant to their campers and to their family as a whole. And that is absolutely something we sort of hear over and over from so many different people, that Flying Horse Farms is the one camp option that their kids can attend. And yeah, right, that looks like all of the stuff on the ropes course. That looks like folks having similar diagnoses and maybe similar scars, but also down to like medication just being a normalized part of the day, where before every meal, in the past, usually the flow is that everybody gathers, sings some songs together outside the dining hall, and then each cabin, one by one, the entire cabin, whether or not you have medication to take, goes through the med line as you're making your way in for the meal. So yeah, there are so many examples I could point to for the ways that camp works to normalize diagnoses and the considerations that go along with those, in a way that ideally, I think our goal is always to just transcend being able to provide for campers and their care, and really reach a point of where their care is fully integrated into the experience of being at camp. So it's not, we have to pull you out of this thing so you can go do your infusion, or you can go make sure you're hydrating. That's just continuously incorporated into everything. I also should say that Flying Horse Farms is part of the Serious Fun Children's Network, which is a global network of camps all serving kids with serious illnesses. So when I say it's only Flying Horse Farms, that's maybe because regionally we're the one option, but there are dozens of camps globally that are all doing this work, part of the same network.
Yeah. Wow. And yeah, I really like that. And the fact that you have this global community and that you're integrating these activities into the experience. So what's the next line?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. The next line is, come be your wacky self. And I would love to share a specific story from Music Club in 2017 for this one. It's the legend of Jaguar style. So we had a camper who was at camp one week in 2017, who was a part of Music Club and just wasn't having a great time. This camper wasn't super interested in playing the ukulele. They did not feel excited about singing the camp song, and mostly just kind of walked around on the outskirts of our program activity area with a counselor or two. And the whole time they were wearing this Jaguar costume from the costume closet. So they just looked like a cool jungle cat. And I was leading this music program at the time, and I was really struggling to find ways to engage them, and doing my best to meet them where they were at, but just not really finding success. So on the last night of Music Club, most of the way through the week of camp, we had 3 cabins of mostly 8 to 10-year-olds who were participating in Music Club, and they had all broken out into smaller groups to come up with their own songs. So writing lyrics, maybe making some music, using some shaker eggs we had already made, doing some dance moves, whatever they wanted. And everybody was getting into it and really just sort of working on their stuff as smaller groups. I was rotating around to check in with people. And this one camper wearing the Jaguar costume was getting into it too, and just working with one other counselor sort of off to the side. And I didn't know what they were cooking up. And eventually at the end of Music Club, it was the time to perform. And there were songs about farting aliens, and there were some really cool dance moves, and there were some really intense shaker egg moments. And eventually this camper volunteered to share their song. The counselor that was kind of co-writing the song with them would like speak the words of the verse in just like this very spoken word avant-garde style. It was all about being a cool jungle cat. And then they would get to the right moment, and this camper would jump in and say, with 2 paws up, Jaguar style. And it was amazing. It was so fun. And they did the whole song, they performed the whole thing, and everybody just like went bananas every time this camper went Jaguar style. And in my memory, I remember at the end of the song, the camper just like pounced onto this giant teddy bear that was in this activity area. So yeah, all of this is to say that this camper found the way that they wanted to participate. It wasn't necessarily anything that I did. It wasn't necessarily anything anyone else did, besides creating this open space where the camper could fit in the way that made sense to them, and be supported in whatever way that was, by the counselor who worked directly with them, by the entire community listening to their song, and just being so excited to lift them up when they were ready to perform. So yeah, come be your wacky self always makes me think of this camper literally being a jaguar and writing a song about it, and just being celebrated and validated in that experience and like held with a lot of love, finding their way to participate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So much of what we do in these kind of experiences or in music therapy, in art therapy, it's just giving the opportunity, right? Just creating the space for kids to bring out their creativity. It's not us coming up with something out of the ordinary and healing and being super amazing, right? It's about creating that space. So I think that this story really reflects that.
Yeah, I love that. I know in one of your interviews with Jessica, who I think is a music therapist at Nationwide Children's now, she talked about working with adults and just offering them the choice of what they wanted to do. And so many people were excited to write songs because she, I think, put it really beautifully that everybody has a story to share, has a story to tell. And maybe that's through a song, maybe that's just through music, maybe that's any kind of way, but just creating the space for those stories to emerge and be told. I totally agree. I think that's the key thing.
Yeah. I think with adults it's even a bit different. It's like we almost need to be given permission to be creative and to do these other things. I don't know. We sort of forget something that kids know more instinctively, right? To be creative, to create art, to try new things. And I feel like sometimes when serious illnesses come to the lives of these children, I think that part of that creativity also gets I don't know how to say, maybe stunted a little bit because they're dealing with so much. So it's again bringing up that opportunity and almost giving them permission to be kids again, right?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I really love that. And I think, yeah, camp enacting in that kind of way of being that opportunity where you're encouraged to be your wacky self, you're encouraged to be goofy. And also like if that's not where you're at, like that is okay and fine and celebrated too. So yeah, making room for every sort of emotion in the spectrum, all of those to be present.
Yeah, love it. Okay, do we have a next story?
Yeah, totally. So next line, no one hears a stranger. I've got two kind of small stories for this one. I was thinking about this morning, and this camper came to mind who was in my cabin in 2015 and was like a 10-year-old, super into Minecraft, didn't really talk about anything except for Minecraft the entire week that they were at camp. And I saw them kind of grow and develop and come into their own as a human being over the next few years, but didn't really have the same sort of like close interaction with them until 2019, when they came back for a full week of camp. And at the end of that week, I was working in the kitchen, and they came up to me and Chef Wes, who was our executive chef and food services director. And this camper just kind of threw their arms around our shoulders and was like, "Man, we've known each other for a long time, haven't we?" And it was just so cool to be like, yes, we have known each other for a long time, even if it's only been 1 week each summer. And even if we haven't like talked that much or whatever, just getting to be a part of this community where maybe you come in as strangers, but very quickly you're not. And very quickly you're able to have these relationships with whoever, with your counselors, with full-time staff, with fellow campers that sustain. I think that's a really special thing about camp. And yeah, so then my second story I was thinking of for this one, we had sort of like a day event where new campers and families could come to Flying Horse Farms, see the facilities, do a couple activities just to get a feel of what it was. And a camper came up to the kitchen then and was like, "Hey, I don't eat gluten. Is there any food that's good for me?" And we had known that there would be folks who can't eat gluten. And so everything that was on our buffet line was gluten-free. And it was just really fun for me to get to be like, anything you want, you can just help yourself. And I got to interact with this camper's mom as well. It was really super lovely. And then this camper came back for a full week that summer for their first time at camp on their own. And that just like sort of baseline of a relationship was already there. So that just felt indicative to me of the fact that so quickly people can come in as strangers and then just be a part of the community, right? They can just know what's going on. ask questions and get hopefully insightful and exciting answers, and yeah, just be a part of the community very quickly.
I love that. And just because I'm thinking as a music therapist and music and everything, there's the song that's sort of, it's an identifier of the community, right? It's something that people can relate to. And are there, or have there been other opportunities where perhaps some of the campers are working on a musical product together? Or I don't know, that's what came to my mind.
Yeah, totally. So every camp week ends with closing campfire, which is a time for campers in their cabins, sometimes as like a by themselves, to perform whatever they want to perform. And so, yes, absolutely, every single closing campfire has some musical expression. And sometimes that's directly from the Spotlight Club, where campers are working on music over the course of the week. And so often it has just been organized by campers on their own, where one camper brought a ukulele. They know that we've got a bunch of ukuleles they can use. And that camper on their own taught Riptide to their entire cabin, and then they sing it at closing campfire. We also have seen folks do some really cool, just like rhythm and percussion activities. The cup song that I don't actually know the name of, it's in, I think, Pitch Perfect, whatever. That has been performed a number of times, which is really cool to see too. And just knowing that these songs that are maybe familiar and sometimes original songs too, all of them being performed in front of an audience that is so excited to hear them, no matter what it actually sounds like or how it goes. It's just perfect no matter what. So yeah, I think there's a lot of cool instances of music sort of being this commonality that everyone can share in.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. Thanks for sharing. So how are we doing with the song?
Yeah, we're about halfway through, and I kind of grouped some together here toward the end, or in the middle.
Right.
So I'd love to just maybe blaze through a couple that kind of go together, and we can talk about those. Great, perfect. So the next chunk is sort of 4 in a row. So it's get ready to laugh harder than you'd ever thought you'd laugh, splash so much higher than you'd ever thought you'd splash, s'more so much more than you'd ever thought you'd s'more. You were great before, and now you're even more. So yeah, that was a lot of fun it's always a lot of fun to sing that one. But yeah, I guess the things that I want to highlight are s'moring so much more than you'd ever thought you'd s'more. We always have campfire s'mores. And we serve a lot of kids who have really specific dietary needs. So I think the number that usually gets cited is like 13 different types of s'mores, which maybe is true, but really we just make whatever s'mores are necessary. If it's for folks who don't eat gluten or dairy or eggs or gelatin or chocolate or whatever, we just figure out how to sort of make something work for everyone on a case-by-case basis as need be. So I love that one. And then the line, you were great before and now you're even more. Just knowing that everyone's coming to camp with their own stuff, their own baggage, and their own skills and experiences and ways of contributing to the camp community. So we are all already great. We're all already powerful, but coming together anywhere, under a song or sharing a meal together or as a cabin, our interactions sort of amplify each other and create these news stories that we then get to share about our times together. And that's, something that I think this song tries to do, and understanding that we are even more when we come together.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Great. Awesome. So
Thanks. Maybe just a couple more quick ones to sort of round us out here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Awesome. Sounds great. So the next couple lines of the song, and all together we know how strong we are. Totally talked about that already. We know we can fly even if we don't have wings. Gather around the campfire and howl at the moon. And then you howl. That's a really fun part to sing, especially the first time most of a group is hearing it, because the folks who do know the song just howl as intensely as they can, and everyone else is kind of like, what's going on? But then once you know, you get to just let loose and rip a howl, and it's really an exciting thing to do. So camp being a place where it's okay to go a little bit wild and release that energy that, like you were saying earlier, sometimes, especially if a kid is living with a serious illness, there's so much that is sort of pushed to the side to make sure that this kid is just healthy and doing okay there. So getting opportunities for release, I think that's something that music does for us so often, especially just like listening to a favorite song and just like jamming along with it, or singing a song that you've wrote and you've really poured your emotions and your thoughts into. All of those things I think are things that we need to be okay and to process and metabolize our emotions and our trauma and our pain. And yeah, something that camp is all about too, is moving through those feelings to heal.
Yeah, great. No, I love that. And I think it's a great song, and I love how you tied all these songs. I mean, not the songs, but the stories to the specific parts of it. And even I could see elements in the stories that you were telling us before, towards the end, some of the new things you were telling, or some of the new lines from the song. I think they apply to most of the stories that you were sharing. And I love that. I don't know, the idea that there's this opportunity for children with serious illnesses to participate, and it's different, right, from what I have more experience with the music therapy part of it, where you're in a hospital. So that's, there are some quite clear differences, right? Because those are usually short sessions, and obviously as a music therapist, you can accompany a child through some time, depending on how long they're in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But at camp, it's really different, right? Because it's a whole week or a weekend, or it's a longer period of time where you're working with these children, and they have a lot of opportunities, right? Not just with music, but with art, with community, with some other activities that you have. And I think that that's part of this idea of it being magical and transformative. It almost changes the narrative, right, that they could have, because at this moment it's they have this time to see themselves through the eyes of this community, through the eyes of the activities they're having. And with that in mind, I was wondering if you could maybe, I'm gonna put a challenge out there and see if you can if it sounds good to you. So like, have you thought about an imaginary camper, right? Like, you can choose whatever age you think appropriate. I'm not sure which ages you serve at camp, but you can choose an age. And then what would be that experience of them? They have this first diagnosis. Like, what would that be like for them? And then where would they find out about camp? And maybe what would be the first reactions to this idea of a whole week in a camp, then coming to the camp, having this experience in the community, and what happens afterwards?
Cool.
Do you want to try that?
Sure. Yeah, I love a good challenge, and I think that's a really great part of the narrative of the whole experience. So yeah, let me start by saying shout out to all of the campers that I've ever interacted with, because I don't have a serious illness. I have not been a camper in this situation. So I would love to very much imagine a sort of scenario and a camper based on all of the stories that I've gotten to share in so far. And also very much based on what I've heard from caregivers and folks who have talked about that whole experience of getting a camper to camp. So yeah, camper, we typically serve around 8-year-olds to our oldest campers who are part of the ranger community doing a servant leadership program, are 16, 17-year-olds typically. So yeah, teenage camper, maybe diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And that's something that, has all sorts of impacts on, can have all sorts of impacts on mobility and pain in different situations, temperature changes, all sorts of things like that. So receiving a diagnosis, from everything that I've heard, can be just such a scary experience where so many things are unknown. And I can imagine how it feels like everything is shifting for this camper. And so at the hospital, they're receiving some treatment. and maybe they're a social worker or their music therapist or their doctor or nurse, in just like connecting them with more resources, tells them about camp. That's often how a lot of our recruitment happens, is we have some hospital champions who know about camp, often have been to camp to volunteer, and understand the power that it can have in a child's healing experience. So this medical professional in the hospital might be the person who says, hey, I think this could be a really cool fit for you. Why not check it out? And our camper is probably feeling a lot of feelings about that, continuing to process a new diagnosis, maybe knowing of some camps that they used to be able to go to and now maybe seem a little bit less of an option, which I think it can be the case for a variety of diagnoses. And yeah, probably talking it over with their family and saying, I don't know, it sounds like maybe a little bit corny, or I don't want to be away from home for a whole week, or I just want to like kind of do the things that I've always been able to do, or that I see other kids doing at other summer camps. So yeah, campers and families often get in touch with our recruitment team and ask a lot of those hard questions of like all the things trying to get at, will I have a good time? Will it be safe for me to be there? Will I be able to build relationships with campers who have experienced similar things to me? And then ideally, our camper comes for maybe that sort of day event just to give camp a trial run, meet some of our staff, go through some of the activity areas, have a meal at camp, continue talking it over with their family for sure. Caregivers always are sort of our champions within the family, I think, and are doing so much to support their families. And so trusting us with the well-being of their kid for a week at a time or whatever is a big thing. It's a big thing to ask, I think. So hopefully their first experiences with camp, we're building up that trust. We're letting them know that this can be a safe place for their kid to go. We also do weekend family camps. That's what we've done in the fall and the spring in the past. And this upcoming season, that's what we'll be returning to. So families can come to camp and experience it together. And that can happen for any reason, just because they come every summer, the kids do, and they want their whole family to come. Maybe a camper is not ready to come on their own, and so coming with the family is sort of a transition. In any case, this camper comes to camp and they meet kids who are like them, and they get to do a whole bunch of things that maybe you don't get to do back home, and maybe you just don't get to do, other people don't trust you or allow you to do because of your diagnosis. So going to archery and firing a bow and arrow, going up on the ropes course, or maybe zip lining from the top of the tallest treehouse in the ropes course, catching fish in our lake and releasing them back in, and having that sort of autonomy to make that choice. Helping to clean up the dining hall and just like make sure that things are spick and span after a meal, taking that sense of ownership and that sense of agency over the facility and the things that benefit everyone else who's there. So yeah, I think those are some of the biggest things that I would hope our fictional camper is experiencing. And that connection too, which I think the song we've talked a lot about, but just building really authentic relationships with other people that can transcend the gates of camp and support people when they're back home. They can think back on the memories that they have. They have new friends to call on the phone and get in touch with, whatever that sort of community connection looks like. I think that's a really key piece of the healing process too. And the solidarity of knowing that other people are going through the same thing, and finding ways to heal and be okay through it all.
Yeah. And so they would go back home. And do you have any idea as far as how many return, or I'm guessing they can come as long as until 16 years old, or how does that work?
Terrific question. I definitely don't have a number of sort of the returner rate, but we absolutely have dozens of campers who have been coming for years. And each season is, of course, a little bit different. We, in the past few seasons, kind of got to the point of being big enough that some folks are placed on a wait list. And so whatever, all of that is some of the logistics of how that works. But yeah, folks go back home and they can come back to camp again for a summer week. They can apply to come as a family for family camp. Like I said, when they get to be about 15 or 16, they age out of the typical camp program and become a ranger, which is a slightly more intense application process. The campers themselves have to write an essay and do a brief phone interview to return as a ranger. And that is focused on leadership, right? So we're developing some of the skills. The rangers are role models for younger campers. They're typically at camp at the same time, directly giving back to this community. And then after that, our campers, of course, do all sorts of things with their lives. And we, have a bunch of folks that have stayed in touch and have come back to camp to volunteer at least a year after their last year as a camper. We've had folks come back and work on seasonal staff. I've worked with a number of very dear friends who started as campers at Flying Horse Farms. And and folks just like give back to camp in myriad ways of organizing donation drives or creating a thing and selling it to benefit camp, or volunteering at events that are out in the community to spread the word of camp, or recruiting their friends. So I think that element of servant leadership, of giving back to the community, is something that we see so many times through so many campers who have been a part of the community for years.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah. Thank you for going through this bit of a thought experiment or thought exercise with me. I think that even for me, that helps me understand more what the process is with camp and how kids eventually get from a diagnosis to knowing about it, coming and having this wonderful experience there. So I hope that it was the same for people watching, that they got to listen and to maybe experience, to put themselves a little bit in this situation, to understand how great of an experience this can be for children, and also how music is integrated into it, art is integrated into it. For us at Sam's Fence, I think we've, if I'm not mistaken, we've focused on the music therapy spotlight, or and then recently we helped also fund what is it called, the studio.
Yeah, we're calling it our Spotlight Studio. I'm glad you brought that up. So all new, never before been used or seen at Flying Horse Farms. We have what is essentially a very thorough, cool, professional recording studio. So we have been working on all sorts of program ideas for how to integrate that into camper experiences this year. Having a lot of talks about what it would look like for campers to work with our team or some other outside organizations to write songs, be able to record them, maybe be able to have families do like a StoryCorps style, like just sharing some stories that we record. I think there's endless opportunities with such a resource. So huge thank you to y'all at Sam's Fans for working with our team and making that happen. It's so cool to get to think about how that can be used.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to us sharing some of those stories, some of those videos through our channels in the future. So people watching can expect that to come at some point. And so Nikki says hi, she's watching.
Hey, Nikki, great to hear from you.
And not that one. So wonderful. Is there anything else that you would like to say as we kind of near the end of today's interview, today's live stream?
Yeah, well, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for having me on this series and asking so many great questions, and just giving another platform to share some stories from camp and about the power of music. It's super cool to watch these videos and know the work that y'all are doing in the community, in so many hospitals, and bringing these healing experiences to kids. So that's awesome. If anybody watching wants more information about Flying Horse Farms, we're all over the internet. flyinghorsefarms.org is the website, and then we're also on social medias. Encourage anyone to volunteer with camp in the future. Would love everyone to just sort of get to experience these stories themselves and not just listen to me like tell about stuff from my perspective. So that's what I got.
Yeah, thank you. And for people watching also, you can go to this website where we have recordings of the past interviews, as well as we're going to be posting there the upcoming There we have 2 more interviews with Cincinnati Children's Hospital and Cleveland Clinic Children's. So I'm really looking forward to those. So go check out this page. There's also there's a form where if you have been touched by some of the stories today, if you feel like you want to be part of this bigger story of Sam's Trans, of Flying Horse Farms, of all our partners, I hope you can consider also making a donation there on that page so that we can continue to support not just Flying Horse Farms, but the different hospitals and continue to expand. We're now also in Florida. We hope to get all across the US as we support other hospitals and camps and just opportunities for music and art therapy to touch the lives of seriously ill children. So I don't see any more questions or comments, but this will be your very last chance. If you have something you want to share with us, share it in the comment section. And I think that's all I got. It's been great to chat with you, Graham.
Yeah, likewise, Samuel. Thank you so much for making this space happen and continuing to share stories. I love it.
Yeah, awesome. All right, then I'll see you all next week, same time, Thursday at 12 noon. And we'll continue to share some information from Flying Horse Farms. I feel like sometimes we need to do a better job of just keeping track of our partners and continue sharing the amazing things that you're doing. So I'm looking forward to continue sharing your mission as well.
Cool. That sounds great.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you, Graham.